Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Brandon Lester Fishing. Definitely got an exciting one for you guys today. I want to recap. I want to take you through how I won my very first Bassmaster Elite Series trophy right here on Pickwick Lake a couple of weeks ago. Man, just an exciting tournament, exciting event. Couldn't be happier with the way things turned out. And man, it certainly felt good to get to hoist this trophy. So let's talk a little bit about it. I'm going to show you guys some fish catches. I'm going to take you through every single setup that I had set up one by one. I had like 4 or 5 different baits that I used in this tournament. So let's jump right into it. All right, guys, so looking at practice for Pickwick Lake, you know, I think there's tournaments every year on the schedule that all the guys look at and they're like, I'm looking forward to that one right there. Pickwick Lake was one of those tournaments for me. If I could pick one week that I wanted to go fish an Elite Series event on Pickwick, I would pick the first week of June. It's when a lot of those fish are wrapping up spawning, they're getting out on the ledges, they're getting out on those deep spots. And I've spent a fair amount of time on Pickwick Lake. You know, it's a couple of hours from my house. I got a really good friend that lives over there, a good friend of mine named Kyle Worsham. He used to fish on the University of Alabama fishing team. I met him several years ago. He and I have fished Pickwick a lot over the years, and he's really shown me a lot on that lake. I'll give him a lot of credit for that. But he and I learned a lot about ledge fishing together. Really good friend of mine and knows that lake really well. So I've spent some time over there. I thought I knew where a lot of those community type schools would be, but I also knew if I was gonna have a chance to win this tournament, I was gonna have to find something a little bit sneaky, a little more off the beaten path, not just those community type holes, because everybody on the Elite Series now, they know what to look for. Everybody has good maps. Everybody has Lowrance or Humminbird or Garmin, whatever they use. Everybody has good enough equipment that they can find those big mega schools of fish. So I knew I was gonna have to find something that was off the beaten path a little bit. First 2 days of practice, I found probably 15 to 20 schools of fish, but they were all on obvious underwater structure. They were all on the tips of islands, just stuff that sticks out like a sore thumb, you know, those community hole type places, where a creek channel comes out and meets the river. There'd be a school there, but everybody and their brother was finding that kind of stuff. So the 3rd day of practice, I noticed the further upriver I went, the less and less boats I saw. So I kept going up that way, And I started idling some of that shallower type stuff. So I see this little bar, it's sticking out there right out into the current. I'm idling over to it, and as I'm idling over to it, I see this other little bitty small bar that didn't stick out on the map very much at all. And I saw on my Lowrance side scan, I saw it roll off of about 5 feet down into about 8 feet, and there was a school of fish sitting right where it rolled off. There was probably 20 or 30 fish sitting on it. I saw them 60 feet out to my right on my Lowrance side imaging. So I marked it. There was a competitor close by. This is the 3rd day of practice now. I marked it. I kept going like nothing ever happened. I come back about an hour later. There's nobody around. I set up on it. I make one cast in there. I get a bite. I make another cast in there. I catch a 3.5 pounder. I immediately throw that fish back, and I was like, I'll start right here and we'll see what happens. And I had a good feeling that the way the spot had set up, I knew traditionally it was a good area, but I thought maybe I might have it to myself. Sure enough, we get there on day 1, and within the first 45 minutes, I've got 21.6 off of that one spot. There were so many fish there. The second fish I caught was like a 2.5 pounder, and there was a 6 pounder literally hitting that fish, like almost trying to eat him. They were so fired up. I don't think he was really trying to eat the fish, but he was probably trying to get the bait out of his mouth. It's probably what he was trying to do, but it was just phenomenal. Every time I'd reel one in, there'd be 4 or 5 with it. So after that first morning, I spent about 45 minutes there, and I got the heck out of there. Second morning I get there, same way, start off, first bite's a 5 pounder. You guys probably watched Bassmaster Live. It was just phenomenal, man. The whole week, every morning, just to break it down and not take forever and not drag it out, because I know you guys watch Bassmaster Live, but every single morning I was getting off to a good start on that one little starting spot. And then as the day went on, I had a couple more places where I could make critical calls throughout the day. And one key thing for me The third and fourth day, that starting spot gave me about a 17 to 18 pound limit, which was a really, really good start in the first hour of the day. And then on day 3, I idled over another place that was about 14 to 16 feet deep. And those fish showed up. You know, something you need to realize about ledge fishing is a lot of times when people start fishing for those groups of fish, those fish will actually start busting up and they'll start moving around and getting on places where they're not getting pressured at. Because if they keep getting pressured on one single spot, they'll find them a different spot to set up on. Well, that's exactly what happened in this tournament. I rolled over a spot on day 3 where I had caught them in a Bassmaster Open 2 years ago, and they just showed up. They were not there on day 1 or day 2. They showed up on day 3. I made 2 critical culls on that spot. And then on day 4, I made a couple of really critical culls on that spot as well. And I'm actually gonna roll some footage from day 3 and 4 on here in just a few minutes. But I wanna talk about the baits that I caught these fish on, because one thing you need to realize about ledge fishing is there's not one bait that is the secret bait for ledge fishing. You need to have a lot of different options. You need to have a big scrounger. You need to have a hair jig. You need to have deep diving crankbaits, maybe 2 or 3 different ones. You need to have big worms. You need to have small worms, finesse stuff. You need to be ready for a lot of different situations. Now, everybody's got their favorites, and I've definitely got my favorites. And I'll tell you guys more about that here in just a minute. But you need to have a lot of different options. I had 5 different baits that I weighed in fish on in this event, and I'm gonna go through them right now. First of all, the first day, I did a lot of my damage on a Strike King 4.0. So that little spot, the little sneaky spot that I told you I was starting on every morning, it topped out in 4 to 5 feet on top, and it rolled off into 8 feet. Now, when a lot of people, when they think about ledge fishing, they think about 15 to 25 feet. Not necessarily. When we're talking about ledge fishing, we're just talking about out off the bank. And it could be a main river ledge, it could be a creek channel ledge, it could be 2 foot deep, it could be 35 feet deep, or even deeper. But that particular spot, like I said, was 4 or 5 on top, rolled off into 8, so it was the perfect depth for that big Strike King 4.0. That is a pretty big square bill. It fits the size of those shad. It makes a lot of racket. It's a hard thump. The fish have to be pretty aggressive before they'll bite it. But the first 2 days, I did a lot of damage on that bait. That color is called chartreuse shad, I think. I was putting size number 1 Mustad KVD Elite trebles on there, and I never lost a fish on it. Great setup. Throwing that on my 7 foot medium heavy Mustad Instinct Signature Series rod, 15 pound vicious 100% fluorocarbon, 6-to-1 reel. That was the setup there. Like I said, caught some key fish on that. I really like catching them on that bait. That's an awesome bait. While we're talking about crankbaits, I caught some critical fish on a Strike King 6XD. Now, I'm gonna tell you guys, I've talked about it a little bit, and you'll learn more about it real soon because we're fixing to release some at ICAST. But I'm working on some hard baits with a company that I've been working with for a while now. We'll talk more about that when we can. But right now, I'm still using, whatever I have to use to get my job done. And this 6XD is a phenomenal deep diving crankbait. I've caught tons of fish on the Tennessee River with it. Citrus shad is my favorite color. Once again, size 1 Mustad KVD Elite trebles, 12 pound vicious Pro Elite fluorocarbon, my 7.6 heavy crankbait rod. Now, don't let this action, the way this rod is labeled, fool you. It says 7.6 heavy. That's a 7.6 heavy moderate, which means it is a heavy parabolic bend rod. The rod bends throughout the rod. So you can tell I'm still getting some bend even halfway up this rod. It's got plenty of tip to throw these big crankbaits, plenty of backbone to drive those big hooks home, and I just don't lose very many fish on this setup. I throw it on a 6-to-1 reel. This is a 200 size reel, which is very important. You want to make long casts. But that was the setup there, and I caught a lot of fish on that, especially on day 3 and 4. One key player for me, I caught a 6'9" on it the first day, and I caught a few fish throughout the week, was a football jig, especially on the shallow spot. This is a mop style football jig, 1/2 ounce. I was putting a green pumpkin Strike King Rage Crawl on the back of it. Give y'all a little bit better look at that. It's a mop style skirt on that jig. It's living rubber. It's got a little bit of like orange and a little bit of chartreuse in it. But that was a key player. Caught a few fish on that, especially on day 1 and 2. Day 3 and 4, they got more conditioned. They wouldn't bite it. So when they got conditioned and they wouldn't bite it, this was the key player right here. I honestly believe, guys, without me throwing this little deal right here, I don't think I'd be sitting here beside this trophy. And I truly mean that. After the first 2 days, those fish got really conditioned to all this other stuff. And this is what they wanted right here. I could throw this worm in there and they would absolutely bite it. I'm gonna roll some footage right now of me catching several fish on this worm right here. And this is after I had thrown the 4.0, after I had thrown the jig. They would not touch it. And it was every cast on this worm. So y'all check this footage out. I'll be right back.
You said you see him out there?
Yeah, I see him right there. I can never get them going. It can happen quick. I'll get a couple of them spots. Looking for.
We'll take it.
It'll get us started anyway. Yes. Boom. I mean a big one, son. Boom. What's up, Bassmaster Live? Go. That gives me fun. Dude, that's a giant. I weighed in a 6'9" the first day. That's bigger than that. That was probably 6 something. That's big. Oh, that's the way to start.
Yeah, go.
Oh my gosh, I don't know if my heart can take no more of that. Take some more of that action.
Take 5 more of those.
Absolutely swallowing at her. Keep number 3. Again, not the size we're looking for, but if we can get a couple more them great big ones, it ain't gonna matter. Them great big ones will make up for these little ones.
What do you think that one weighs?
Pound 3/4. All right, guys, so as you can see, they just wanted this worm. I caught a 613 or a 614, almost a 7-pounder on this worm, second fish I caught on day 3. What this is a Berkeley Maxcent Magnum hitworm. If you're familiar with the Tennessee River, this worm's been getting it done for the past couple of years for sure. The way I was rigging it is actually called a Nico rig, and it's basically just a modified wacky rig. I just hooked the worm right there in the middle. I use a size number 2 Mustad Titan-X wacky Nico hook, and then right here in the head of the worm, I left it sticking out so you guys could see it. That's a 1/8 ounce Mustad Nico weight. That's a tungsten nail weight that's made by Mustad. 1/8 ounce is what I was using. I probably could have got by with 3/32, but I like that 1/8 ounce because it gets it to the bottom, and that's the most important thing. I threw that on my 6'10" medium power Mustad Instinct BLF Signature Series rod, 10-pound Vicious No Fade braid, the high vis yellow, to 10-pound Pro Elite fluorocarbon leader. Awesome setup. Gosh, I caught so many fish on that. They love that worm. I'm just telling you. I mean, when it comes to finesse presentations, that right there is hard to beat. And then there was one fish catch, the most memorable fish catch of my career. Let me set this one up just a little bit. So on the final day, I went out with a 3-pound lead. I knew if I could get to another 20 pounds that they would have a hard time catching me on that final day. So I started out by 7:51 that morning. I had about 17 pounds in the boat. And looking back, I had the tournament won then, but I didn't know that. My goal was to catch another 20 pounds because I had done it every single day. About 1 o'clock, I pull up to that place that I told you that they showed up on day 3. And I was like, man, if I could just catch a 6-pounder, I think I'd slam the door. Sure enough, I catch a couple on that 6XD. I pick up this big scrounger and I threw it out there, and my first or second cast, I caught a 6-pounder, a 513, so right at a 6-pounder on this scrounger. And I pretty much knew at that moment that I had won the event. Most memorable fish catch of my career up until this point. Just an awesome way to kind of put an exclamation point on an amazing week. I knew that put me over 20 pounds, and I knew those guys would have to catch a monster bag to catch me. But my scrounger setup, that's a 3/4 ounce scrounger with a 5-inch Castaic jerky J on the back of it. It's just a really good, if you're familiar with the Tennessee River, you know they bite that setup right there. I was throwing that on 15-pound vicious 100% fluorocarbon. My 7'4" medium heavy Mustad Instinct Signature Series rod, a 6-to-1 reel, and that was the setup there. That was the only fish I caught on that bait all week that I weighed in. I caught a few here and there on it, but yeah, just an awesome week, man. Can't tell you what it means to me to finally get my hands on one of these blue trophies right here, man. I've waited a long time, 9 years, and been working at it since I was about 4 or 5 years old. So feels good to finally get the job done for sure. But want to thank you guys for watching. Thank you for all the support. It means the world to me. Thank you for supporting the channel. We're gonna start wrapping this thing back up as soon as the season starts winding down a little bit. We'll start doing some more just fun fishing videos and crappie fishing videos and all that. I'm certainly I've not quit doing that. I've just not had the time to do it. But thank you guys for watching. Remember, everything you pretty much just saw me go through right here, you can find it all. MidwayUSA.com. They've got just about everything you need for the outdoors. Hey, I appreciate you guys. I'll see you next time right here. Brandon Lester Fishing.